Good morning. This is session number 7 of this meditation series. We're going to take a moment to just settle our minds. And you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. And one beautiful way of settling the mind is to become aware of something else. And that something else could be your breath. It could be sounds. It could be sensations. So what we're going to do, we're going to try a different type of meditation where we actually look at our surroundings. And we focus without staring or without glaring, just on objects around us. So obviously for this we're going to need to open our eyes again, but just look around the room. And whatever your gaze falls upon, just look at that object. So for example, I'm looking at a box of tissues. And the ego and the mind wants to put some meaning. What are those tissues for? Are they environmentally friendly or not? The shape of the box, that sort of thing. But what I'm inviting you to do is just to allow yourself to be aware of the item without adding any meaning to it, without analysing it, without questioning it, without coming up with an opinion about it. Just to be with it. I know that sounds a bit odd, but this is just for this meditation. Just spend no more than a minute looking at it, noticing the shapes, but not naming the shape. So just noticing its form. And also just notice how quickly our mind goes into categorizing. Oh, I know what that is. I know what it's used for. Oh, I remember I had to use one of those a couple of days ago. If you catch yourself doing that, just simply switch your attention. There's nothing wrong, but just say to yourself, oh yeah, that's fine, but at the moment I'm just being with this object. There is no meaning to this object. And then move your gaze away to something else. And do the same kind of exercise with that. Look at it. The shape. The way light bounces off it, or it absorbs light. And it's difficult to describe because we're using words, and obviously words have meaning. But just being with the object and not attaching any meaning to it whatsoever. remember the aim of these exercises is simply to access an inner peace. For some it can be a spiritual place, a place where you meet your creator, your source, whatever it is you believe in. For some it's just the inner Buddha, the essence, that innocence that you were born with. But just by being with an object, not judging it, not thinking about what it means, can be a really powerful way of just settling the mind, finding that peace. Remember, that peace is there anyway. It's just that it's often obscured by the clouds of meaning that we put in its way. Might be helpful to imagine that you are some sort of animal, a cat or a dog. Or the cat doesn't look at that object and say, "Oh, that's a clock. Oh, by the way, I'm on time or I'm late for an appointment." It's interesting the way the minutes and the hours are represented by those arms. No, the cat just sees an object. Look at it as if it's the first time you've ever looked at it. First time you've ever become aware of it. And switch your attention to something else in the room. And it really doesn't matter what. In fact, be aware of looking for an object that looks interesting, because the only way it looks interesting to you is if you're adding meaning to it. All objects are interesting in their own right. I'm just looking at an empty bag on a table. Looking at the wrinkles and the way the light reflects off the wrinkles in the bag. Like I say, try not to stare at it or to strain your eyes, or if you feel yourself being uncomfortable, just try and relax and just gently glance at whatever the object is. Notice as your peace starts to become revealed to you, you actually start to notice your body, your breathing. And then switch your gaze to for something else. Just observe its its form, how solid it is, or otherwise. The light shining on it, reflecting off its surfaces. And whilst you're doing this, just become more aware of the peace in your mind. Remember, we're doing this for a purpose. To find that peace. It's there. It's just that we cover it over with incessant thoughts. And all these thoughts really can be described as judgments. Do we like that colour? Do we like that shape? Is that object more important than the other object? And actually, if you think about it, it's a metaphor for everything else in our life. Do we like this place? Do we like this person? How do they rank against other people? Against other places? We're constantly judging, trying to make sense of the world we live in and the people around us, the things around us. And all this robs us of our peace. It's not what we get taught in school. We're taught to hone our powers of judgment. But for relaxation and finding our true peace, that path is useless to us. So just relax. Take a holiday from all that. And be with these inanimate objects. Or animate if it's an animal you're looking at. Plant. And let's move our gaze to something further away from us. The other end of the room. Try not to name the item. Attach any purpose to it. Have any opinion about it. Just be comfortable looking at it, being with it, but most of all appreciating the peace within. And as soon as you feel tedium setting in, just move your gaze to something else. Look at it as if for the first time, with a child's eye maybe, wonderment, Be aware of shape, texture. Perhaps look at the negative space around it. If the item you're looking at was a silhouette, what would be the shapes that you'd see around it? And you can change objects as often as you like. But be aware of choosing objects to look at. Just be with whatever your gaze happens to rest upon without deciding anything about it. And then maybe look at something outside your window or as far away as you can. If any sounds distract you, just simply recognize the sound has distracted you and gently bring your mind's attention back to what you're looking at. Just being with the actual object, its shape, the way light interacts with it, its form. Above all, just relax and be aware of the peace. And if you start to feel yourself becoming self-conscious, a bit silly, a bit awkward, there's nothing wrong with those thoughts and feelings. It's quite natural. But just give yourself permission to move your attention away from thoughts like that to the object you're looking at. It's certainly not going to do you any harm, and it is an access to that peace. And then to bring us to the end of this meditation, I just invite you to close your eyes gently and just sit with that peace. And just as you were gazing at the objects, just be aware of what you can see through your eyelids, the light or dark. You might not see anything. But just being aware of your body, whatever's registering on your retina. And being aware of the peacefulness that's within you. You might find it helpful to breathe into that peace. Take a few breaths, just deeper than normal. As we come to the end of this meditation, just start to gently open your eyes. Give yourself a little stretch, if that's what you want to do. Hopefully you found that useful. There's so many different ways of switching your attention from incessant thinking to give your brain a holiday. And that's just one of them. Might not be for everyone. Might be techniques that work better for you. Whatever works for you is fine. Okay, I'll see you for the next session.